Okay, so I was just noting in your history form chronic dieting, and it looks like you started in college.
Yeah.
Okay. But before that, you didn't really have any issues. You were a normal kid. Do you
I mean,
remember?
I think that certain issues maybe started in childhood, but I did not have a problem with abusing food until college.
Yeah, do you think that that has a lot to do with a correlation to when you started gaining more weight?
Absolutely. I mean, my weight was stable until my sophomore year of college.
And then that was when you started abusing food.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that funny? You
Yeah.
know,
My second year, yeah, sophomore year.
yeah, that's when. So, would you agree that once you started feeling bad or desperate to lose the weight, that was when you started to really abuse food?
Um,
Or what I mean by abuse food is using food out of feelings of shame about your weight and anticipating a diet, like the diet paradigm.
well, um, I'm sure that's correct. I had never gained any significant amount of weight. And so, sophomore year in college, we just partied a lot and just binge ate in the middle of the night together a lot.
Oh, for sure. Well, because you're staying up so late. Like I remember going to Taco Bell like at 3 in the morning.
Yeah,
Plus, you
our
don't
thing
want to
was
have a
like,
hangover, and there's something about eating a bunch of greasy food.
yeah,
Like going to Perkins at 5 a.m.
exactly that type of thing. And we would do it together. You know, I lived in a house with
Yeah.
three girls, and then it was like, oh, really? Well, now I've gained weight. Like, that was a huge shock to me. And then I think from there on, I was just kind of set on a path of yo-yoing.
Well, I think the difference, don't you agree, that your lifestyle, your sophomore year, wasn't, so your eating and the excessive eating was not about diet shame. It was just part of just the college scene and part of kind of the lifestyle of partying as a kid and staying up late. That your gain was more of a representation of that lifestyle. Once you started feeling bad about your weight and maybe saying, I gotta stop, I gotta go on a diet, would you agree that your eating behavior, emotional eating behavior, that was when that began?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I think the initial overeating kind of taught me how to binge, and then over time I attached a bunch of emotion to that.
Mm-hmm,
so
It was more, it was then intentional. It was an intentional emotional binge, but it was related to your weight. It was related to your weight. So have you considered that correlation, the correlation to your eating issues being that there is this underlying shame about your weight?
I know what you're asking is simple. I'm just thinking through it.
Yeah, well, I want you to connect with maybe some of the feelings you have when you overeat. That's really what I'm asking you to do, is think about the moment when you overeat today and you're doing it with the intention and you make the decision to do it, because we all decide, right? It's not like the food is controlling you. It's not. When you make that intentional decision, would you say that the feelings of I have failed already, what's the use? Does that have anything to do with it?
I'm sure it does. Yes, absolutely. I think that, I decide to say screw it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's usually a feeling of I've failed. Usually when you say screw it, you're thinking, oh, I'm not doing a very good job, or I'm failing at this, and it's not even use. There's no use in trying to comply to the rules. Okay.
Right.
I really want to talk about that, because what we're getting into is the issue at hand here. Because if we can dissect that and at least open it up for you, what is the likelihood you're going to continue to repeat that way of thinking? Because when you're overeating, wouldn't you agree that that is why you have the result of being overweight?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we can fix that and you don't go towards that way of eating,
then we're fixing the overall picture for you.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
I understand that for me and for most people, it's a deep-seated habit born of unpleasant emotions and feelings of general shitness.
Yeah, it is. It's an inadequacy, failure. And that's a big issue, I think, that we need to be discussing in the diet industry, is how this concept of perfectionism is ultimately supporting sabotage, which is, wouldn't you agree, that's kind of what you do? Well, if I can't follow it perfectly, I'm getting a sense of inadequacy, so I might as well just let it go for now. Yep. And I will fix whatever damages that this causes with the next time I start imposing those rules again.
Absolutely.
Okay. So where is the issue then in that system of thought, in that cycle of thinking? Where is the biggest issue? And if we remove that issue, can the rest of the cycle even be there? Does that make sense? Do you think you're 5'5", you said you're 185 pounds right now. And in the past, you've lost 50 pounds of body fat before. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that period of time as you were losing, as you were getting closer to where you wanted to be? And then do you recall how you gained it back?
Yeah.
How one direction, as you're losing, you're getting this sense of success, control, organization. You were feeling like my life is put together. I am doing so much better. You're getting positive reinforcement from everybody around you, and you're changing your clothes and how that felt, right?
Absolutely.
And then you get to a certain point where you're like, all right, maybe the weight isn't going down as quickly. Maybe you're hitting a real plateau where, your body is staying where it's staying at. Do you remember the point at which you started to adjust your behavior to the opposite side, where you're like, you know what, let's just screw it. I'm feeling good. I don't need these boundaries. I'll just fix it tomorrow. I'll work out more tomorrow. Do you remember where you started to be okay then regaining some of the weight?
Yes.
Where you're like, you know what, I can gain I've lost 50 pounds. I can gain 10 pounds at this point and I'd still be happy.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Do you see
the new relationship, and I was in love, and I got distracted, and all of those old habits were there, and then shortly thereafter I had a major trauma, and then all hell broke loose.
Yeah. So your relationship with food, there was a need in a relationship with food that was separate from I need to look thin. The need to look thin for you is less important than your need for food for specific reasons, right? Like you can handle, I wonder if you can handle social situations with food. That's not an issue for you. You can handle, I don't know, maybe social is something that's hard for you. Where do you think, well, why don't you tell me, what are your hardest, sorry, my dog is over here eating something. What do you have? What are the most difficult situations for you with food? It sounds like stress?
Absolutely. I have 3 small children. I have a toddler and twin 1-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And I don't sleep much, and I have a stressful job. Okay. And so I just feel depleted on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. I don't get enough rest. Mm-hmm. And so I'm constantly trying to replenish something that I feel is missing, and it's emotional, but I'll tell you, at the end of a long day, after not sleeping and then going to work all day and then all these babies, I'm trying to replenish myself after feeling just completely drained.
Yeah, I understand that for sure.
I also use it to just avoid unpleasant feelings, whether it's sadness, like I said, like we mentioned, stress. It's probably just your run-of-the-mill, I read Women, Food, and God. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book. Mm-hmm. With
Janine Roth. Hey. Sorry, my dog is... Hey! What are you doing? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, I'm so sorry. Potato, come here, buddy. That's a no-no.
Oh, you didn't know. He's got this like wax mouth, this Halloween, and he's protecting it from me right now like it's a bone. Oh, that's a no. You no. Potato, no. Trouble.
Okay, that's not an appropriate doggy treat.
No, and he's so funny with me. I think he's hungry, so I'll have to feed him here in a second. Anyway, sorry about that.
No worries.
Oh, well, do you hear as you're telling me this that maybe weight isn't what you need to use as a focus, as your gauge for success, that maybe weight is the consequence of some issues you need to really focus on. And it's really a matter of strengthening and thinking about the solutions to what you just described. You really need to focus in on what is the solution for that. It doesn't make sense to say, well, when I lose the weight, I'll feel so much better about myself, right? That I won't have issues when I feel insecure. It doesn't make sense to say when I lose weight, I'm not going to feel so drained when I'm done with work. It just doesn't work that way. Because you sound just overwhelmed more than you feel physically labored. Right?
Yeah, I mean, my life has been complete, wonderful, glorious chaos for the last 3 years. I mean, I was not expecting to get pregnant again so soon. I certainly wasn't expecting twins. So it's a lot. It's wonderful, but it's a lot.
Yeah, and you feel kind of tested. What you're capable of handling and juggling, it's like a test of what you think you can handle and what you thought it was supposed to be like. And, it really is, I think, important for you to develop a space and a way that you function that you feel confident in, and to also acknowledge that you need to breathe and you need to feel nurtured, and you need to do something other than eating food to feel nurtured emotionally and psychologically. You definitely need to focus on, proper nourishment with your food. Oh, potato. I really think you need to focus somewhere completely different. You've got to ignore the whole weight thing. Even though it's physically there, consider how you develop, how you got to where you are. The problem isn't because your body had a malfunction. The problem is because under specific environments, you need food to feel numb or to feel adequate or to feel that you can handle something. And it's such an illusion. I mean, honestly, what has eating done for you to feel better about how overworked you feel? Does eating really change? It doesn't change anything. And you're going to have to change your perspective so that denying food, right, when you have the trigger to eat it, doesn't feel like punishment. I think that's so important. Is there anything that could possibly change in the near, let's say, a month or two, realistically, change your life in such a way that you won't want to eat food? Anything. I mean, for nourishing reasons.
Can you ask me that again?
I know, I think I confused myself.
You ask really excellent, tough questions, which is great, but ask that again, please.
Is there anything possible that could happen that would, in the next couple of months, relieve you of the stress of your life?
No, of course not.
Okay, so what you're going to have to do is find something realistic that you can do that doesn't add to your stress. I think that your temporary numbing agent of food is adding to your stress because you have this body image issue, which is a whole nother conversation that you can watch in other videos or we can talk about later. But you have a body image issue that you're not matching up to. And the result is shame and guilt over the way you look on top of what you're dealing with because you have this relationship with food. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how much of your feelings of, okay, I want to start this over. How much of your overlying sense of fatigue, I get this overwhelmed feeling, comes from feeling inadequate?
I would say the majority of it.
Okay. So if you had the same exact environment, but had a sense of adequacy or a capacity, same, everything's the same, but you felt capable, or you felt like it's adequate, you're doing a great job. If you actually felt that way, what would happen to your neediness with food?
It would go away, and I'd have a lot more energy.
And patience, right? Don't you think you'd have more patience?
For everything else that I'm not doing. Something that you said that just absolutely hit home with me is that, the suppression of the creative part of my soul. I'm a writer, and I love to cook, and I'm a singer, and I would love to focus creatively and productively on those beautiful gifts that I was given, rather than constantly snubbing out my light with food.
Yeah, well, and I think the one feeling I keep on getting as I'm talking to you is just, I think you felt like there's some expectation as a mom, and as for some reason you had this expectation, or you thought in order to be successful as a mom or someone who works, that you have to attain a certain level, or you have to accomplish something, and you're finding that you're not getting it, you're not accomplishing it what you thought you were supposed to, and because of that, because you set the bar really high for yourself, and you don't think that bar being as high as it is what's wrong, you're feeling bad about yourself. Does that make sense? You, in advance, said, well, in order to be a good mom and in order to be a good person, I have to meet these expectations. But you never realized that those expectations that you created for yourself were completely naive to reality. You're in reality. Tell me about reality.
Well, reality is that there's dishes in the sink, that there's a mess, that my kids have crusty faces. Reality is that I don't know. I don't know for sure that.
Reality is maybe an hour of exercise every day isn't realistic. Reality is maybe, eating farm-raised, all organic, whatever your food principles are, isn't 100% realistic either. Maybe being, you think of everything. Getting the laundry put away and folded as soon as you've done it isn't realistic either. I mean, think about how many standards you continue to hold yourself to based on the perfect scenario. In a perfect scenario, like a stay-at-home mom, which, let me tell you, I'm staying home, and this dog and I love him and it's worth it, but it's just unrealistic for even me to say, okay, I want to be able to do this work. I want to be able to write a book. I have to take care of the dog. I need to make sure that I have all 3 of my kids' homework done and blah, blah, blah. And to be able to say, I'm going to be able to get a book done, published in 2 months from now. Right? And if I can get it done in 2 months from now, that would make me a worthy individual, right? Plus, I need to have a pristine house, folded laundry, everything put away. The dog needs to be loved and cared for. My husband needs to be loved and cared for. Do you see how, if I really truly believed in that expectation, that I'm setting myself up to feel inadequate? It sounds easy because I kind of use something that's obviously like unrealistic, but how much of what you're doing is based on this unattainable idea of what it should be, and then judging yourself by it as if that is the truth. You're going to have to, I think, readjust your beliefs now that you're in reality and you know the truth of reality. Because I think that's an important thing too, is that you know the truth of what you thought was supposed to happen, and you're denying the truth of what you have, right? The truth of what you have is what you have, and there's nothing that's going to immediately change it to what you think it should be. Funny thing is that people with a body image issue tend to think that if they're thin, it fixes everything in their life. It'll fix the marriage. It'll fix your children. It'll fix your laundry. It'll fix your kitchen sink that needs... if I am skinnier, my toilet won't break, right? If I'm skinnier, my periods won't be so bad. Well, there is some truth to that.
That one might have a little bit of truth.
It does, but it's not like I don't get bitchy. You know what I'm saying? It's like we, for some reason, believe that being skinny is our savior. It's going to save the world, and we'll be happier, and we'll feel controlled and organized, and we're going to be in order. You know, and I think sometimes when people feel out of order and they feel out of control, for some reason they think if I have control with my food and control with my body, that it will transcend through everything in my life. Like, it's going to get your garage organized, right? Like, being skinny is going to get you to... It just doesn't work that way. So, forgive yourself and remove this idea of perfection and what you think it's supposed to be.